you have to be mindful and open to taking on a role that is temporary, knowing that it can lead to something else. But networking is something that you don't just need to get into your career. You need it throughout your career. It's not just, okay, let me network, I'll get in and then I can coast. No, like networking is something that you're constantly doing. If you want to thrive and do well and move up in your career, networking is something that you have to be comfortable with.
As a student myself, I got two of the three positions I got. I should never have had, but through networking I actually got them. So, for example, my second position was at Mackenzie Investments, and they hire only exclusively from Queen's University. I think 90% of their employees are from there. But I got the job because I networked and I knew someone in the company. And my most recent position at Herjavec Group was actually for an MBA student. And because I knew someone, I got my foot in the door and I was able to make a case. And so I think you shouldn't underestimate the potential of networking. And even though it can be awkward at first, especially I know I was awkward myself initially networking, but the more you do it, the better you get. And there's really no downside to reaching out to people and picking their brains or asking them questions.
So networking is a day-to-day thing. At a meeting today, meeting new people, having a conversation around a project that I'm working on starts a whole networking experience. Dinner last night at a friend's place, new professor at the engineering faculty here, was a networking experience. It's part of the ongoing process in the work that I do, working in the media and entertainment space, and especially in the technology space. You're never quite sure what conversation will sort of drive a whole new project or what team that you want to be part of. When I first got in the business on the television side, there were crews and people work with people that they like to work with, and so you got hired based on, you know, how well you did your job, if people liked you and all that stuff, and then they would call you up and say, are you free to work on our next project? And that network just expanded that way. Currently, I love the meetup ecosystem, especially on the VR, AR, MR side. There are multiple groups in Toronto that meet up regularly, and at those groups you're always learning something new and the light bulb goes off. Wow, I'd really like to talk to that individual because I could use his technology in what I'm working on, or in a potential project that I'm going to be potentially working on. So it's an ongoing process of having a conversation with somebody over something that really intrigues you and something that you could use or learn from, or a potential down the road, maybe not today, maybe in 3 months or 6 months, possibly in a year. So I encourage you just to get out and socialize and talk to individuals that are like-minded on projects that you want to work on, with teams that you want to work with, and through that build relationships. And for me, that's what networking really is. It's building new relationships with people.
Well, just going back to the question about how important was networking in my career, I think it was very important. I networked internally with people who provided mentorship for me. And they were able to tell me about a program that would enhance my skills in economic development, and then enabled me to get a certification. So that was very valuable, as that became a huge asset in my career. And I also networked with the hiring manager who hired me for my first job in economic development, and I did that prior to the job posting. So just from that networking, I had already established a relationship with the hiring manager, so he knew my background, and I think it certainly improved my chances to getting that job, which it did significantly. I also networked externally with economic development people in the field, and as others have mentioned, that helped me understand the industry. It helped me understand the challenges, where the opportunities are. So that was very valuable. If I had to give a tip about networking, what I would say is network where you have interest. You know, if you're interested in a certain job in a certain industry, focus on talking to people in that industry. Again, you know, it will help you to get to know the industry, again, where the opportunities are within the industry. And the one thing I would say too is always try to network with people face to face. I think that's very important, especially in this day and age. Mm-hmm. Don't just flip somebody an email and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and you know, expect that's going to be enough. Nobody ever forgets a face, at least I don't. And you can certainly reach out through an email or LinkedIn as an initial step, but make an effort to meet people face to face.
So we heard today, really internal networking, right? So that was a term that really came up. And what are some ways to make yourself internal, right? Volunteering, internships, going in and introducing yourself to people face to face. That's essentially how you begin to network and to grow your network even more. But if you can get in as a volunteer, you are now able to build connections with the professionals that are in there. You get to showcase your skills and how great you are, and that's going to make people want to essentially put that stamp of credibility on you and to move you forward when opportunities come out as well. The Career Center does hold events such as volunteer fairs where you have the opportunity to connect with employers who are looking for volunteers, but don't be afraid to create these opportunities on your own. LinkedIn was mentioned a lot today as well. LinkedIn is one of those tools that allows you to maintain these relationships. As was mentioned by our panelists, making that initial connection is great, but the benefit and the value is really going to come from building that rapport and maintaining that connection. And LinkedIn is a perfect way to do that. I encourage you all to take advantage of the resources that are available to you from the Career Center and other professionals that allows you to build your LinkedIn profile and showcases how you can actually use it. It's such a powerful tool. I feel like I haven't even used all of the features on it, but there's so many available there to help you connect with the people who you need to connect with. Another thing that was mentioned today as well was the types of ways that you can network. TASTE stands for Take a Student to Eat, and it is a program that is organized by the Career Center and allows you to connect with alumni on a one-to-one basis. So we have alumni who post different lunches or meetings or coffee chats, and we actually have a panelist on today who is actually part of the TASTE program. And it's a way for you to apply for these meetings and to meet with this individual in an informal setting, and allows you to ask the questions that you may have. So this is another way. Networking doesn't always have to be this scary big networking event that you have to go and talk to individuals, because it can be a little intimidating. So I think the one thing to take away when it comes to this is, one, networking is important, and two, there are multiple ways to network. So you really just have to find what fits within your comfort zone and what will essentially bring you value when it comes to your job search. So thank you very much for that information. I know some of us are on different paths and different, areas when it comes to our career journey. But is there anything that you feel like you wish you had known when you got started that would have essentially either helped you move to where you are quicker or would have perhaps avoided some obstacles that you faced?
I think it goes back to speaking to the right people. I think I probably could have used mentors early on in my career. I think who would have helped me get to a stage where I had more focus or more direction in my career. I think early on in my career I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think that well, I don't want to. Nothing's ever a waste of time. You always learn from any experience. But I think if I would have had help from people more earlier on in my career, would have given me more direction. And certainly, I think I would have been able to get into the industry a lot quicker than I am today. I started within economic development. I guess I wouldn't say mid-career, but maybe later in my earlier career. So, I think had I started earlier, I might be in a more advanced position by now. But having said that, I love the job, and I think there's still a lot of career upside for me there, and I enjoy going to work every day, and I'm happy to be where I am.
Definitely mentors, and getting strong mentors that could be there part of the process throughout your career. And mentors do change throughout your career as well, depending on where you're at. Maybe some focus on like taking bigger risks earlier on in your career, venturing outside of your comfort zone and saying, hey, I want to try this and apply my knowledge and see how that sort of works for your trajectory. In my path from a media entertainment standpoint, the industry has disrupted itself incredibly. I was part of the team that launched tsn.ca back in the 90s and the foray into digital media, and since then it's just evolved at such an exponential rate that to sort of look forward and say where is it going to go to, or how is it going to sort of find its bearing, or what is the end result. That's what intrigues me a lot. So finding people who also believe in the fact that, you know, the media industry is evolving at such a rate that it's a good thing, you know, has sort of helped me in my career path as well. Like-minded individuals, like-minded mentors, who see what we're doing in the space as you know, a positive change to the industry, and then helping individuals who are entering the industry understand that landscape as well, and how to sort of navigate through that landscape as far as their career choices go.
Something I wish I knew before I'd started my career path was the importance of soft skills. While being knowledgeable in technically is important to be able to do the job, soft skills are just as important, if not more important, in being able to communicate your message. And I'll tell a story. It's a little embarrassing, but my cousin is the founder of a pretty successful tech company, and for my first position, I'd applied to his. Well, he set up an interview for me, and didn't tell the interviewer that I was his cousin. And being one of my first interviews, I was terrible at it, and I actually didn't get the job. That was a little embarrassing, but from there I began to develop my soft skills, being able to communicate my message or my ideas across more effectively. And if I'd known that sooner, I think I would have been more successful in finding jobs and making meaningful connections.
I always knew I wanted to enter into the OPS from, I'd say from early grad school. I knew I wanted to be in government, but then I honed it down to the Ontario Public Service in grad school. And what I wish I had done was to start applying early, because the hiring process can be very slow, particularly if you do it the old-fashioned way, which is online and all that stuff. So if it's good to do that in addition to networking, but if you are going to do the online application route, do it early. I would say start 8 months in advance, 4 months in advance, because you never know. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow. The ones that are quick are the ones that you hear through networking opportunities where they need someone right away. But the ones that are posted online are slower because there are more, there's just more that needs to be done in such a process. So if I had done that, if I had applied earlier, I probably would have kickstarted my career earlier, but you know, you live and you learn.
So I think all of these points are really great. I would probably pick the same things. The only other thing I would add is early on when you go for an interview, it's the beginning of your career, you're so focused on you trying to sell yourself and your skills that you might forget that you also have a duty to interview the interviewer, just to make sure that the job you're walking into is the job you want, or in terms of the office environment. Management practices are extremely important because if you go into a place that is not well managed in terms of project management, for example, you will suffer and your skills may erode over time. So take that opportunity to ask really good questions when you get your interviews.
Yeah, I think I wish I would have drank a lot more while I was in school. I still would have gotten in to do my MBA, I think, and I should have drank more there too. But you know, in all seriousness, the aspect of I was probably too worried about my career path and what I was going to be doing next, and I always want to tell people, don't worry so much. Not that you want to enjoy life to its fullest all the time. There are things to focus on, but take advantage of the opportunities where you are. Very good points, certainly about sitting across the table from somebody else for an interview. I tell everybody that you are absolutely interviewing them like they're interviewing you. They hold the cards to potentially provide you an offer, but you have the absolute, the end goal of whether you want to accept it or not. So, you know, I'm very fortunate. I don't look back and have regrets or worry that I should have done something differently. You know, life is just too short to worry about things that you may have done incorrectly or you wanted to improve from, but you just learn from all your experiences.
As everyone said for all the points before, the only thing I would add is, just like now how we're going into interviews, but also video interviews, I would say if you're going to do even that video interview, like those 30 seconds, try to also show people how do you bring your value to the table or to the organization, but how do you also solve the problem that if they're going to be presenting you. So it's not only how good am I, but also the value that you're going to bring to them.
Again, just to summarize some of the points that were brought up during this question, so finding mentors, and again, like I said, the Career Center is there to help you when it comes to how exactly can you approach individuals when you're looking for mentors. As was mentioned a little bit earlier, you don't want to approach people by saying, you know, really nice to meet you, can you get me a job? That's normally not the best way to build rapport, but be very specific about what you're looking for when you're reaching out to mentors, especially when it's through LinkedIn, through emails. The more specific you are and the clearer you can make it for that professional, the more chances you have of them reaching out to you and wanting to meet up with you as well. So be specific about not only what your end goal is, but also be flexible as well. Many times I hear students, you know, and you know, Thomas, you mentioned face-to-face meetings are so important, and I completely agree with that. So always your end goal should be to meet with that person face-to-face. But if they're only available to talk over the phone or talk through LinkedIn, take what you can get. And be very appreciative of the opportunities that are provided to you, because anytime you find a mentor, even our panelists here today, this is all on a volunteer basis. So I think that's something really to show gratitude for as well. Another thing that was mentioned as well was, you know, Kevin, I know you mentioned, you know, the first interview that you went to and how it wasn't successful, and how that may have been a little embarrassing. But one thing to remember is don't be afraid of failure, right? In any road that you take, any path that you take, there's going to be opportunities that come up, and I feel like many times I hear students say that they're afraid to go for it because they don't think that they'll be able to get it, or they don't think that they'll be successful. So when you're going through the process of looking for a job or exploring your careers, one, step outside of your comfort zone and don't be afraid to fail, because that really is where the best learning opportunities come from. And practice your skills. Use the resources that are available to you. Like I mentioned, Career Center helps with resumes, interview skills. So if these are things that you feel like perhaps you need to improve on, take advantage of the resources that are there for you.